The Mets'd podcast official top 25 prospect rankings for the New York Mets. We're going to give you that today. We have one conglomerate, just put together 25 ranking as not how we normally do it. We normally go against each other and give our random ones against it. But today we are doing one official top 25 ranking for the podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe over on YouTube. We really do appreciate it. And I don't know if James is doing the audio for this, but maybe he is. And if you are, appreciate you. Subscribe over there as well on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. James, where do we want to get started? Just at the bottom, number 25?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we have to, right? We got to make people wait for number one.
Of course. Or they click through to the end and they screw us on the watch time. If you want to be a bad viewer, you can do that. If you want to be a good viewer, stay through the whole thing.
Also, you guys are getting way more good, juicy information from us, like 25 through 15, than you are getting 15 through 1. These are the guys, these are the nitty gritty. This is the research. These are the guys you might not know who we're going to tell you about.
That being said, we did pick a friend of ours at number 25 to get this list started, Ryan Lambert. We support our friends.
We support our friends. We're going to be a little bit biased. If you're a Mets prospect and you want to make our top 25 prospects, the one thing you can do is come on the show and talk to us. That's a guarantee. But past that, Ryan is also a really talented player. He throws harder than anybody in the organization. He already told us on this podcast that the Mets were kind of starting to develop him, treat him as if he was Paul Skeens with his splinter and doing the same pregame warm-up stuff with the water jet pack to loosen his trunk. We love Ryan Lambert. I think he's going to be a really good pitcher one day.
And he throws 100, and it's the 25th prospect ranking. We're just going to start picking guys that we like down here. So while we like him more as our friend, because he, of course, that's how you get on this list. You be our friend, you get on the podcast. Some of the other guys that you're going to see on here, too, may not be names you see on other lists. Guys that we just personally like more for different reasons. One of those guys being next up at number 24, Jack Wenninger.
Yeah, Wenninger's really fun. He did make the Baseball America top 25 or top 30, whatever they put out last week, but he's a 22-year-old sixth-round pick out of Illinois last year. He also came from Murray State to Illinois.
Go Racers.
Yeah, Murray State, that's South Carolina, right?
That's Tennessee, I believe.
Tennessee. Okay, so a little bit of baseball, but he's from the Midwest, so didn't exactly grow up with a big baseball background. Similar to Lambert, where there's probably a lot more upside left on an arm once you get into a real organization like this. The stuff doesn't jump off the page for Wenninger, but he has crazy swing and miss. He had 29% strikeout rate in St. Lucie. He's got 24% in his first 20 innings in Brooklyn. He's giving up some more runs in Brooklyn, but getting used to the level, much harder level than St. Lucie. He only had nine strikeouts in his first 12 and 2/3 innings with the Cyclones, but he's getting good now. He just had an outing where he had 8 strikeouts in 3 innings. He's really good. He's been called a changeup artist by Eric Longenhagen, a Fangraphs, big changeup guy. Like, that's his pitch. And he only throws like 92, 94 miles an hour, but he shows 5 other different pitches. So
yeah, we're trying to figure out the pitches too. Fastball, cutter, curveball, maybe even a sinker from what the pitch data looks like. But Wenninger, decent guy. Keep an eye out for him at number 24. Next up at number 23, we're going with the player that was part of the David Robertson trade last season with the Marlins. That's going to be Ronald Hernandez, who has done a really good job quietly at St. Lucie this year. 385 on base at 20 years old. That's a really impressive stat.
Yeah, really good, because he's also a guy who came to the Mets with apparently really good bat to ball. He always had good batting averages down the complex, and I think it was the DSL where he started, but good contact skills. Now he's getting this on base skill. He's like an undersized catcher, but he's a guy who, he probably comes up and he could be a nice quality backup catcher in the Major League roster one day. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, just love seeing that plate discipline already at a young age, which is fantastic. At number 22, a name that the Mets just took in this previous draft. I think they took him in the 4th round, I believe.
I think it was 5th.
4th or 5th, shortstop out of Missouri, right?
Yes.
Missouri, and he was going to be committed to the University of Tennessee. That's where I get confused. Trey Snyder.
Yeah, Trey Snyder. Mets gave him what was like commensurate of a 2nd round slot bonus, maybe between the 2nd and 3rd slot bonus. Yanked him away from Tennessee, which is really cool because Tennessee's coming off a college baseball World Series. Coach Tony Vitello is one of the best in the country. But this was a swing for the fences pick. We swung for the fences. We hit it out. He was the only high schooler we took in the first, 10, 15 rounds in what was a pretty weak high school class. But Gatorade's Missouri Player of the Year. Scouts raved about his shortstop defense. And his high school showcases, he had, I think I saw a tweet, 99% percentile exit velocities. Check. Really good things.
Yes, and looking at him too, he's a strong kid. I think he's 6'1", almost 200 pounds, which is kind of crazy for a high school shortstop. Really strong, really smooth, compact swing as well. A lot of good things there from Trey Snyder. I got to keep an eye out for. There's going to be a dude a little bit higher up on this list that is a very similar-ish idea to what happened with Trey Snyder, a guy we stole away from a big school and ended up becoming a pretty solid prospect for someone that we like. All right. Just missing out on the top 20 at number 21, we have a name that Mets fans should be somewhat familiar with, Simone Juan.
Yeah, Simone Juan, you guys might remember that Mark and I completely freaked out over him in spring
Yeah.
training because he had hit 2 balls over 112 miles an hour, and I think it was 4 total spring training at bats. So you do that, I don't care when, I don't care why, I don't care how, and I don't care what else happens to you the rest of the season. As long as you're not the worst player at the level you're playing at, you're going to make our top 25. And Simone Juan is still down in the complex in Florida. He's doing totally fine. Like, he's hitting some homers. He's better than the average there. But he did that in spring training. That was like a pop-off kind of moment. That was an I'm not going to forget you moment. And Simone Juan gets in their top 25 for that reason alone.
Yeah, and for context, Nolan Arenado has never hit a ball that hard. Is not necessarily like going to be one of the top exit velos, but he's also still, 19 years old, 20 years old doing that?
I think he's 18 still,
even
actually.
younger, 18 years old, and he put up a 112. That's super impressive. You don't see those exit velos from a lot of young players. Yeah, you don't see those from young players. So Simone Juan gets on the list because he hit the ball hard a couple times. And you know what? That's how these lists should be. These lists, a lot of people, when they talk about prospect rankings, they never want to get aggressive. They never want to make these big, crazy changes. That's exactly what you should be doing. This is rolling dice. You don't know what's going to come out anytime on these lists. Doesn't matter if they're 1 or number 20, the guy could end up being decent.
This season alone, Wyatt Langford has not hit the ball 112 miles an hour. Brian Reynolds has not hit the ball 112 miles an hour. Corbin Carroll has not done it. Paul Goldschmidt. Christopher Morel, who's known for powerful hitting, has not hit the ball 112 miles an hour. Bo Bichette has not hit the ball 112 miles an hour. Jordan Westbrook, one of the biggest young player breakouts in the league this year, has not hit the ball 112 miles an hour. Brandon Nimmo has not hit the ball 112 miles an hour. Helio Ramos, one of the other biggest prospect breakouts this year. Nolan Gorman, Alec Burleson, Brandon Lau, Starling Marte, of course not. These are Alec Boehm, Gleyber Torres. He did this twice in 4 at-bats in spring training against pitchers that are in Double-A right now. Like, that's something that, again, like, I pride ourselves, Mark and I, on making these prospect lists because we're not going to hold ourselves to things we once said. Like, we're wrong all the time.
Love to be wrong.
We're so okay to admit it. And we're going to admit it up and down on this list, being wrong. And also when we're right, because we like that a lot too. But these things should change a lot. And do these big seminal moments for these players should have a huge impact. Like Simone Juan hitting 2 balls 112 miles an hour in spring training.
Yeah, we'll talk about some guys maybe that we've been wrong about towards the end after we finish up. Guys that were left off this list. And we'll put our hand up and say, hey, missed that one pretty bad. All right, getting the top 20 started. At number 20, we've got Nate Dome, pitcher out of Mississippi State, who we took in this previous draft. And I know, James, you love this dude.
Love it. This is another one similar to Christian Scott, Brandon Sproat, where the Mets see a high upside, also weirdly SEC relief pitcher, and like, we're going to make you a really good starter. Dome had the 4th highest strikeout to walk ratio in Division I if he were qualified, had legit first round potential if he were healthy. Big 99 mile an hour fastball, big time slider, good looking changeup, shows a curveball. A lot of good stuff here. Think there's someone who we could see be the next big Mets pitching prospect riser.
Which love to see. This pitching factory, the pitching lab, they've done good things thus far. Love to see what they can do with a guy like Nate Dome. At number 19, quickly becoming one of my favorite little sneaky prospects down there. Give me Edward Lantigua. This kid's swing is just, it's beautiful. I love what I could see there. He got paid nearly $1 million international signing bonus pool money. And he's put up some decent numbers so far from what we've seen. Again, granted, it's the summer league. Like, it's nothing crazy, nothing to take too much stock in. That's why he's at number 19. But it's got some good guts right now.
Totally. But it being in the air, being in the DSL at 17 is good. Going there and hitting really, really well at 17 is good. He's stealing some bases. He's not striking out a lot. He's taking walks. And Mets fans, you guys want to feel really old for a second?
Yes.
Or even you, Mark. Edward Lantigua was born after Carlos Beltran took strike 3 against Adam Wainwright.
I don't love that.
November 2006, he was born. But
no.
Smooth swinging outfielder. This is another one we're going to put on here. And we're like, in a year, we'll be like, oh yeah, Edward Lantigua, when he's in St. Lucie crushing the ball. We were right.
Correct. One guy that we talk about as well a lot on this podcast, Nick Morabito, coming in at number 18, playing center field. Looks pretty good out there. Put up incredible numbers in St. Lucie and putting up pretty decent numbers as well at Brooklyn right now.
Yeah, this is another one that people in the prospect community are shifted on because I don't know. I think Mark and I might look at a player's slash line in the minor leagues and think more importantly about it than the scouts. But also the scouts, like watching Morabito, just getting some videos of him playing the outfield. He looks like he can actually play center field. So someone who can actually play center field, who's good enough to like steal 35 bases and half a season of A-ball and also get on base at nearly 400 clip, like that's good enough for me to be like, this is a top 20 prospect in the system. The only thing more be though, which we talked about a lot when we were doing the dense prospect reports early in the season, is just no power. Max exit velocity 105 when he was at St. Lucie is just not good enough for someone who is an older high school draft pick who's supposed to be like this kind of torqued up, like physical guy. So that's an issue. Hopefully grows into it, but it feels like now we have what?
You want to know something funny? Just some of the players that he's hit a ball harder than this year.
Okay, yeah, go.
He has hit a ball harder than Nolan Shanuel, who's at 103.9. He's hit a ball harder than our king, Stephen Kwan, 104.3, and Michael Ciani. Those are the four right now, or three right now, major leaguers that are qualified hitters that he's hit a ball harder than already. Jeff McNeil is near there, too, at 105.7.
So let's say this. That Ciani is actually probably a good comparison, or probably
I think Ciani's got better speed and is like a disgusting as center fielder, but why not?
That's what I mean. Like, but if he can just play plus center field, at least when he's young at the major league level,
Yes.
like that's what. And also maybe like what Morbido has to do is like really rework his approach to be something like Quan. Just be like, I'm going to make contact with everything. I'm not going to do anything hard. Like I'm going to be like a Ryer. It's like I'll juice my way to a 700 OPS in the major leagues. But unlike Luis Reyes, play really good defense.
That's also interesting too. Like Adele Amador, 103.6, and he was I know he's a different prospect or whatever. But it's just funny how max exit velos matter a little bit more sometimes for some guys than they do others.
Yeah, well, I think they should matter more for most guys. I think that's an issue. Like I remember someone tried to peddle me out the Amador in the Dynasty League a few years ago, and I took a trade for Jordan Westberg instead. And the person was like, "What? Do you see how much better Alde Amador is ranked?" I was like, "Have you seen Alde Amador? Like how many like 5'7", like 160-pound All Stars do you see in Major League Baseball? Yeah. Like give me the SEC dude who's really big and makes a lot more contact, like makes more powerful contact. Like I got shit in the league for that, but whatever. And also, there's kind of a tier for prospects. Yes. I'm a tier man. Mark's not a tier man.
I'm a numbers
I think
man.
Between Lantigua and Morbido, we kind of have the guys who are like our big upside swings versus now guys who are like steadier projections, but maybe not as crazy of upside.
Yes, and that would be at number 17, Marco Vargas, who has unfortunately not had a great year after all the exciting stuff we saw last year towards the end of the year after the David Robertson trade, and even in the spring breakout game. We were really impressed with his approach at the plate, but he has struggled at St. Lucie. He's also been battling injuries, so you don't know how much that has to deal with it too, and also not really playing shortstop, so we did have to drop him down a little bit on this list.
Totally, and the St. Lucie Mets have weird vibes because Mace made, and one guy this is sneaky. I know we're on 17, but someone who's not going to make our list. Surprisingly, Mets first round pick last year, Colin Houck, has been horrible on both sides of the ball, but he's playing shortstop basically every day because he's the Mets first round pick. So they have to keep pushing him to shortstop, and he might be taking shortstop reps from Vargas and someone else. We're really excited about that. We're going to have higher on this list.
Yes, and we will talk about him later. Still a long way to go with Marco Vargas. Not done yet, but based on what we've seen this year, you can't be as excited as you were in previous years.
No, that's okay.
At number 16, we have another St. Lucie Brooklyn Cyclones kid right now. Fan of the channel, fan of Giraffe Neck Mark. Took a selfie with me the day he was at Citi Field.
He signed his contract.
He signed his contract. He's like, Giraffe Neck Mark, what are you doing here? Took a picture with me. That's fucked up. But at number 16, Jacob Reimer. He does a lot well. I mean, he's a big kid. He's probably just going to stick to the corner of third base, first base, maybe even more so first base. Not so sure yet what that glove looks like. But
see the outfield.
Could see the outfield. He's had the ability to get on base. I think he has a career 400 on base percentage in the minors. Has only played like 120 games, but that alone right there is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I was trying to think of major league comps for him as a guy who's just super okay everywhere, but not like a very standouty type of skill where it's just like he can run a little bit, he can hit a little bit, there's a little bit of power. Like I'm thinking of like a 17 homer, like 265 average, third base, first base, corner outfielder type.
This is so I don't think he is this player because he had crazy heights, but like that's kind of what Anthony Rendon was when he came up. He was just kind of like not very athletic third baseman who like hit for some average and a little power.
I thought about like the older versions of Nick Swisher, just without the hyper on base percentage.
Fair,
where it's just like because
he's a lefty, but
yeah, he's a lefty. That's true. Reimer being a righty does hurt the ceiling a little bit, but again, just like all the scouts, everyone just like he's a good little player. He's a good ball player. He's the kind of guy keeping the organization. Our 16th ranked prospect again. Also, we should say as Reimer being our 16th ranked prospect, as we get higher in this list, Mark and I also have different prospect qualifications than the other big time lists. We think that guys like Christian Scott, Ronnie Mauricio, if you were healthy right now and you would definitely be in the major leagues, I don't really consider you a prospect anymore. Because Mauricio didn't tear his ACL, he'd be on the major league team contributing. If Christian Scott, his elbow was cooperating right now, he'd be in the major league team contributing. Like he was in the major league team contributing. So those are guys that we don't have on this list. So some guys might be pushed up a little bit because two of the Mets' presumed top 5 prospects in every single list are not here for us.
I think technically as long as you're rookie eligible, you still get classified as a prospect. Not for us. We're not putting them on there. All right. Top 15 now. Jeremy Rodriguez came over from the Tommy Pham trade. He's a guy that you were particularly excited about. You were like, this guy's awesome. And he's looked pretty good. I mean, he got crazy offseason buzz and has looked pretty decent so far from what we've seen.
Totally. And like he got the crazy buzz last year because he just did things plate discipline wise in the DSL that I think he was either 17 or older, an older version, 16 at the time for part of the season. They just don't do. He had 96% in zone contact rate, a 19% chase rate, 18 extra base hits, and more walks and strikeouts in 51 games last year in the DSL between the Diamondbacks and the Mets organizations. And you look at videos of him, and Matt Eddy told us this in the podcast in the offseason when we did our top Mets prospects. He just looks like a fucking hitter in there. Like you can see him bouncing. You can see the way his hands and his wrists operate. He twists really well with his hips. He gets around on the ball again. As someone who right now would be a high school senior.
Yes.
So this is like Mark and I had a debate about in this recent draft class if Jeremy Rodriguez would have been like a late first round pick in this draft. Mark said no. I said I think maybe some team would have taken a shot, but also it's a little different. We look at the draft a little differently. He also looks like he can just hang a shortstop long term as a 6-foot kid with really good actions, and he's lithe and he's lean. But it looks like he's going to grow into some more power, but not at a take away the athleticism. He hasn't been the same kind of hitter this year, losing the power a little bit, then the plate discipline. But again, he's the same age as a college senior.
Yeah.
There's a long way to go, and the things he's already done at 17 years old put him in a nice, comfortable echelon for me, much more comfortable than most 17, 18-year-old prospects.
A dude who also, in the spring breakout game, we were very impressed with his plate discipline, and I think he had a couple
watching
nice
him
hits.
hit.
Yeah,
just like seeing him. He's the kind of guy, like, you see him in the box, you're like, oh, this is a fucking hitter.
Yeah.
Like, you can feel it. Vargas feels the same way, so we're hoping those two guys can maybe heat up towards the end of the year and get back on for next season.
For sure. At number 14, we're kind of moving into a little bit of a different tier here now. These are a lot more closer-ish guys. Guys that are just kind of hanging around waiting for their shot. One of them being Mike Vasil, who comes in at number 14. We all got super excited about him last year. He was carving up Double-A, us included, and we had to. We couldn't talk about anything else on the podcast, so we had to get excited every once in a while. We were allowed to talk about prospects. And Vasil was tearing up Double-A, but literally, as soon as he stepped foot in AAA, it's just been difficult for him. Has not been the same pitcher. Has kind of been getting lit up.
Yeah, and AAA is hard. Like, we're going to talk about someone everyone wants to hear about later, Brandon Sproat. He didn't do well in his first AAA start, but AAA is a different strike zone than the other minor league levels. You have a different baseball on different minor league levels. The average age of AAA goes up to like the mid to late 20s because you're facing all of these major league guys waiting in the wings on play teams' 40-man rosters like Ben Gamble and Jose Iglesias, who are legitimate Major League Baseball players, but their teams just don't have the spot in the 26 for them right now. So you're facing a different caliber of guys from AA. Again, your strike zone is different, your baseball is different. It's three very different things that has to happen in AAA. And Vasil probably should have acclimated by now. His results are still bad. But something else cool about AAA is that we have full pitch data on all of these guys. And Vasil pitching, he still has three very good secondary pitches. His sweeper is nasty. His curveball is plus, and his changeup is totally fine. His sinker's okay. He shows the color, that's fine. His 14 fastball is not good and it gets lit up. And last year, Vasil, we had this pitch data and all that stuff was still similar, but he was all fastball, all sinker, all changeup over and over again. This year, he's gotten a lot more comfortable with the sweeper and the curveball. He's using them much more start to start. And it's still a weird mix, like just being that as a major league, it's hard to think of a Major League Baseball player where I'm like, oh, all the breaking balls are good and all the fastballs are bad. But my mind went to someone who's broken out this year, who was another late bloomer, Jake Irvin.
Ooh.
And the thing that made Jake Irvin so good at the Major League level was being like, you know what? This curveball is my best pitch. The slider is my second best pitch. I'm going to throw these the whole time, and I'm going to dare you to hit them. And it worked for a few months for Jake Irvin. He's been bad for a few months. But worst case scenario, Jake Irvin's a quality Major League back-end starter. I think he will be for a decent amount of time. So I think the way for Vasil to get back up is to just get really comfortable with those breaking balls. I'm sure he is trying to do. I'm sure that's the directive from the team AAA. So I think there's still a path for him to be a fine back-end spot starter, the Major League pitcher.
And again, this was an 8th-round pick back in 2021. Major win that if we can get this guy to the Major League level. Like, this is, I think sometimes too, like with the prospect stuff, you hear about these guys with the helium, kind of like Vasil did last year, and you're like, next Jacob deGrom, like that's what every Met fan does. They're like, oh my God, this random dude from like the middle rounds of the draft, he's going to be the next deGrom. It's like, no, sometimes you're just going to be major leaguers, and that's okay.
And that's also a Mets Twitter thing too, because like people like, everyone knows like the Mets prospect Twitter people. Like we like Joe DeMeo, he's a friend of the channel. Mike Mayer tweets everything about the prospects, but they only seem to tweet when the guys do either really well or really bad because it's an engagement game. And we're going to be telling you most of these guys just happen to be in the middle all the time. And then it's about how the organization looks at these guys. Like Mark said, a guy like Vasil, who was an 8th round pick out of I think Virginia. Good baseball school, but you're not a guy who you were like, oh, we're banking on this guy. like him getting to the major leagues is like, holy shit, the value that we just accrued, like good for player development, good for scouting, good organizational success to convert guys like that to major leaguers.
Yes. Now, that being said, this next guy at number 13, Jonathan Santucci, we do have higher hopes for. There is some ceiling on him. Coming out of Duke, second round pick by the Mets in this previous draft. People are excited about him. He has a
Yeah.
lively arm. His numbers were comparable-ish to Hagen Smith, who was a guy who even went number 5 overall to the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah, and the pitch mix for Santucci is that commensurate of another first round pick. I think he also dealt with some injuries and
Yes.
also some control issues, and that kind of pushed him down the board. But big lefty with a 97 miles an hour fastball that's gotten up to 20 inches of inverted vertical break. So that kind of fastball comes into the zone and rises up on the guys. It's like what Shota
Come on.
Managa
Yes, there he is.
does. I don't know why I always screw that name up, but it's like what he does, but 5 extra miles an hour on it because Shota kind of sits between 91 and 93. And then that fastball with Duke had a 30% in zone whiff rate. So of all fastballs in the strike zone that were swung at, 30% swings and misses, one of the best in the country last year. A huge slider had a 50% swing and miss rate, and then a very real changeup that like is his key pitch. Lance Prasdatsky talked about this in the MLB Draft show. That changeup, because he's a lefty, he's got to get righties out the next level because the slider is very big, so it's not going to be the best against righties. If that gets more consistent, those 3 pitches together, this looks like a Major League Baseball starter. There's a lot of upside in Santucci. Excited to see what the Mets pitching lab does with him.
Yes. At number 12, we have another pitcher, Dominic Hamill, a guy you've been hearing about forever, waiting for his shot. He's going to get it one day, Dom. I know he is. Like he's going to get his shot, but he also has just been terrible at AAA, so it's kind of hard to push him through, especially when you have guys who are just performing a little bit better.
Yeah, while he's been bad at AAA, the Mets are still pushing him, getting length. He's averaging 86 pitches per start at AAA this year, which is that's still thinking he's a starter because the sweeper still goes crazy. His fastball is good, and he's worked really, really hard to turn his changeup into a real pitch. Like I see those AAA results, I'm like, he might be just throwing 25% changeups.
Yeah.
That might be screwing him because it's definitely his 3rd or 4th best pitch, but he has to throw a lot because he has to prove he can use it. And his curveball drops a ton, but it's like an obvious curveball. It's got the big hump on it, and it is different from the sweeper, but it's still a nice pitch. And then he has a cutter too. So that's a starter's mix. The results are bad, but starter's mentality. We saw him throw out a 1-hitter over 8 innings last year.
He's definitely
in the semifinal game against Somerset. Dog.
He's got some dog in him. He was part of, I think on Twitter, he made a joke that he went on a date with Salma Hayek or Penelope Cruz. I don't remember which one it was, but
Salma, which is probably 20 years older than him.
Oh, for sure. But Dom Hamill, and he's got crazy energy. So he's got that good curveball too. I remember that curveball in Somerset looked pretty disgusting.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of good pitches. So I think they're just like, just come on, keep doing it. Be here when we need you.
Okay, we're just missing on the top 10 here at number 11. We promised someone a little bit earlier when we were talking about Trey Snyder, someone that we're both a little bit higher on than I think most right now. And that's what we're going to do over here on the Mets'd podcast. We're going to throw some juice into Boston Barrow right now because sneaky, kind of fun dude. The Mets took him in the 8th round as well last year. He was committed to UCLA, and they just said, "Here, a lot of money. Let's see if we can steal you away with a later round pick." He looks pretty good. He's been playing a lot of third base again because Colin Houck is playing shortstop. Same draft. You're not going to put the 8th rounder there when you have the 1st round who you're giving a couple $1 million to. So he's been pretty good. And at the plate, like I really like his swing. His left-handed swing to me looks aggressive, and it looks like it could have some pop in there.
He looks smooth. It's a nice compact swing. He also seems like, cause he's a big kid, but looks like he's going to grow into more body and not have it. I think he's already 6'1" or 6'2" as a 19-year-old, pushing 200 pounds, and looks like he looks like he holds the frame well. And he's been playing third base this year at St. Lucie for the Mets. He has an absolute cannon there, and he looks like someone who could be a plus third base defender, like someone who can dominate defensively there. Like he's so good there. The Mets have still played them 17 games to shortstop and even 14 in second base. So that's like the best kind of versatility. Like I'm really good playing defense at every position. And the Mets kind of aggressively put him in St. Lucie. He barely played in the complex as an 18-year-old last year. And in St. Lucie this year, 120 WRC plus and 364 OBP. Playing positions he didn't play very much because he was a high school shortstop. Still just 19 years old. I think if you guys are going to leave this list and come away with a prospect in the Mets system that people don't really talk about that you should be excited about, it's Boston Barrow, especially being a lefty infielder, actions to play everywhere in the infield, big kid, silky smooth, power. This is the guy.
Yeah, no, definitely. Super high on Boston Barrow. We're going to sneak him into number 11 because now if we get into the top 10, this is where the stuff really starts to matter. At number 10, we're going with Jonah Tong. The stuff is crazy. The helium's nuts. You heard about the meteoric rise he had through the lower ranks of the Mets farm system. And he's still, I mean, he's run into some more issues at high A, which is supposed to happen for a 20-year-old like this, but he's still looking pretty good.
Yeah, he's run into issues, but I think the ERA is still down to like 3.4 now because he just had an absolute torrid streak with Brooklyn where over 7 starts, 50 strikeouts, 10 walks, and 32 innings, and 2.48 ERA. So he got another bad start, though, this week. He had more walks, strikeouts, and a bad game against the Yankees. But those Yankees single A teams are always just monstrous. Like, they're so damn good. But overall, like, I know when he was in St. Lucie, he threw 20 innings and he struck out like 45% of batters and
Yeah.
didn't give up an earned run. That'll really get you the helium. But even at Brooklyn, still as a 21-year-old pitcher, which is rare to see the pitchers move this quickly, get to Brooklyn 21 years old. Most of the pitchers in that staff, you're going to see a lot of 23, 24-year-old guys like a year out of college even. Still at that age, 30% strikeout rate and a 3.5 ERA. It's 3.6 ERA in Brooklyn.
Fantastic.
Really good. Really, really, really good. Someone to still be very excited about.
At number 9, someone we were both very excited about, especially from what we saw in spring training this year, Jesus Baez. If he didn't tear that damn meniscus in his knee, this dude could really have some helium this year.
Love Jesus Baez. He's one of the most guys for the full season. Him and Barrow, I think, are, as the Mets hitting development, we think hasn't really come along yet, especially where the pitching lap has gotten itself to. These are the two guys we can look at and be like, okay, things might be working with hitting development because I think full season, he might have been the biggest breakout in the whole system. Sucks he tore that meniscus after only playing like a week's worth of games in Brooklyn, where he was holding his own. I think it was only 8 or 9 games, but he still had the low walk rate, the medium walk rate, the low strikeout rate, the good power. He was even playing some shortstop for Brooklyn. He's a guy who looks like he might be a little too stiff to play there, but the fact that while he's still young can do that is amazing. But just while he was in St. Lucie, one of the best combinations of contact rate, power, and discipline in everyone for all of A ball. And it's just, he had Sim. We're gonna take these like one little things that happen in spring training because they're still important. In that breakout game, Jesus Baez laced a 112-mile-an-hour line drive off of DJ Hurts. DJ Hurts has been a good major league pitcher this year. Jesus Baez is still an A ball, and he hit the hardest ball he's ever hit in his life off him. So something to be excited about. Just a little torqued up motherfucker, and he's really, really, really good ball player.
Jesus Baez is how old again?
I want to say 19. Might have just turned 20.
19, yeah. So that would put him like in the top 100 basically of exit velos this year in Major League Baseball for players for max exit velo hit, and he did that at the very young age against a guy who is in the majors right now pitching for the Nationals
and pitching actually well.
Yeah, DJ Hurts. All right, next up at number 8, just when you thought James was out, he's all the way back in. Baseball America had him ranked at number 14. James said, "You know what? I'm back now. People are done with him. I'm back in." Luis Angel Acuna.
Totally. And again, considering what Baseball America would have had, like basically everyone in this top 10, everyone to this point has moved back 2 spots because they have Mauricio and Christian Scott ahead. But I'm back being excited about Luis Angel Acuna just simply as a Major League Baseball player. That's it. Like, I'm not telling you guys he's going to be a superstar. He's never, ever, ever, I'm sorry to say this, he's never even going to get close to being his brother. But I'm back to being like, this is our hard-hitting Venezuelan Whit Merrifield.
There
like, this is
it.
Like, because what Luis Angel Acuna's done this year that's really made me change my tune on him is he looks awesome in center field. He looks really good back there. Some natural instincts. He just started playing the position. He looks someone who could be like a positive center field defender for a long time, who can mix in a shortstop, and who could be plus at second base and third base. And weirdly enough, one of the highest hard hit percentages in all of AAA this year. So while the counting stats are still bad, the slash line is still bad, the max exit velocity is still not good. It's about 109 miles an hour, almost 110. This is still a guy who's definitely a major leaguer. He's playing a full year of AAA baseball, 22. He would have just gotten drafted if he went to college. He'd be right now in single A or double A. Like, this is someone who his name kills him. Mets Twitter ruined him. But this is a Major League Baseball player who's going to help. And he might not be an everyday player, but that's still fine. We traded a bag of bones to get him. We really did. Max Scherzer's nothing when we got rid of him. Thank God we got rid of that contract. We're having a better season than Texas Rangers this year. We're way better than Texas Rangers this year. And Luis Angel Acuna, again, he's going to be a plus defender in center field. He's going to be a plus defender at every infield position besides shortstop. He's going to be like an average defender at shortstop for a little while. And he could probably hit enough to move around the diamond and be okay. He's kind of like if this is funny. This is going to be a funny comp. This is a real niche one for the Mets fans. He's going to be like if your Danny Valdespin was better.
If he was good. If he was a good baseball player.
But same vibes. And that's good for someone
who's
too. Yeah, steal some bases, make things happen, just be a good little ball player, not be a superstar. Do not listen to Mets Twitter. Sorry, his name is Acuna. It's sad he had to go to the fucking MLB office when he was 21 years old, going into AAA and never being that good. But he's a fun little ball player. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, he's a spark plug, and that's exactly what this team could use at times. You don't want to pay for those guys, and he will be free, which is where his true value will be.
I love a spark plug, and that's what he is. Again, this is also a tier right here. The Acuna, Baez, Tong, Barrow. guys who, these are going to be major league players, but their breadth is still kind of wide.
Yes. Then we move into the next tier, which is going to be, I think we might just call this the Oklahoma State boys, because at number 7, we've got Carson Ben, first round pick in the MLB draft this past year, outfielder from Oklahoma State. Just really good bat at the plate, very quick hands, super good bat to ball skills, good plate discipline. There's some pop in that bat. You want to see him pull the ball in the air a little bit more, which that is a little bit concerning, especially because we know the Mets haven't really been able to get guys to do that recently. But all the guts inside of Carson Ben make for a very good player.
Yep, and the Mets said that they're going to try him in center field, which is something he didn't do in college, but something, again, we've talked about, like, just because someone didn't do something doesn't mean they can't do it. So cool if the Mets are going to push him there because he has a great arm. He's really athletic. Let's push that envelope.
And also can't stretch enough. College baseball, a little bit stupid. Even the best schools, a little stupid.
It's kind of the joy of it. It's the beauty of college baseball, though.
Yeah,
where baseball can still be dumb.
They'll be like 1 out, man on first, gotta get him over to second, put a bunt down with my 3-hitter. Like, gotta get this bunt down.
Everyone's got to know how to do it. But coming in at number 6, someone who's divisive in Mets prospect circles, but really fun. Someone that Carson Ben accidentally said was not a two-way player anymore. Nolan McLean.
Yeah.
Who we spoke glowingly about. I'll never waver on him. He's hit the speed bump in AA. The stats aren't great, but he also made, I think I said it before, 17 starts as a pitcher between high school and AA baseball, which is pretty remarkable. Stuff is still amazing. The fastball slider combo would create one of the best relievers in Major League Baseball today. The Mets are taking the long route with him, trying him as a starting pitcher. He's working on the cutter. I think there's been some murmurs about a changeup being mixed in there too. Crazy upside, Nolan McLean still. Really love him as a prospect.
He should be hitting a speed bump. That's what happens. Because if he didn't, you'd be talking about one of the best pitching prospects in all of baseball. All of a sudden, you'd be like, what? Nolan McLean next year, opening day? Oh my God, what's happening? This is what's going to happen. These are the things that should happen. These are the things that keep you away from being superhuman athletes. Very, very normal. And the fact that he's no longer hitting, can focus on pitching now full-time. Excited to see what that can turn him into as well.
Totally. The divergence, the fork in the road for Nolan McLean after spring training, spring breakout, running through A-ball was between really good prospect and prodigy.
Yes.
So, sorry, it's a shame. He's not a full-on prodigy anymore, but he's still a really good pitching prospect.
100%. Now, getting the top 5 started, one of my favorites, my guy from Tennessee, Blade Tidwell. I don't really know what to do with him because his numbers are bad at AAA. Like, there's no way around it. Like, they're just not very good. Is there a problem with AAA? Is Syracuse a hellhole to pitch in? Maybe he's not as good as we think, but I still won't give him a Blade. Big fastball, good off-speed breaking pitches. Like, I still think he's a very solid pitcher, just maybe not going to be like a frontline starter, probably more so back end now.
Yeah, which is, again, fine, which is why he gets up into this tier where he's closer to the top, not on upside, but on floor and on safety. Like, I have so much confidence that Blade Tidwell will be a major league pitcher.
Like,
soon.
Walker Lockett was a major league pitcher. Blade Tidwell's going to be better than him.
Yeah, like Blade Tidwell probably gets to be, this is going to be ugly for Mets fans here because I think Mets fans want to be really excited about prospects, not hear about floor. Blade Tidwell to me seems like a slightly better version of David Peterson.
Nice.
But I'm just saying, like,
David Peterson's been great this year.
You know how many starts David Peterson's made for the Mets? You know how much money David Peterson saved the Mets? You know how many games he's helped them win? A lot. I think Blade Tidwell is a little bit better than him. And Blade's a weird guy because he's so run by fastball velocity. He's never going to pop in these stuff models because he doesn't have one of these, like, silky smooth backspinning fastballs because he comes on a very steep approach angle. But sometimes when he gets himself to that velocity, he's had some starts in AAA where he sat 95, 96, even 97. Fastball looks great. And it'll never get swings and misses, but it gets a lot of soft contact. But then where Blade becomes really good is the fact that he has a really good cutter. He has a really good slider. He shows a good changeup. He shows a good sinker. He shows a good curveball. He's a kitchen sink guy with velocity to turn him into a high-end guy. So Blade Tidwell could put up some seasons in the major leagues where if he gets all these things together, where you're like, damn, Blade Tidwell's made 27 starts with 3.4 ERA.
Yeah.
You could also have some seasons where you're like, damn, Blade Tidwell made 24 starts with 4.4 ERA. But that's kind of the range where Blade Tidwell's probably going to be around. It just depends how much of that velocity he can sustain and how comfortable he gets with those secondary pitches, using them in different counts.
Yeah, 100%. We love Blade over here. Also, sick name. Now, coming in at number 4. This is where we get into the different tier now of, exciting. These guys can maybe make some noise. And that's going to be Ryan Clifford, who is making some noise, to say the least. James's guy, when we heard about the Verlander trade, immediately the first player out of James' mouth was, I hope we get Ryan Clifford. We did. He was giddy for the rest of the day. And for good reason. I mean, he's got the 7th highest WRC plus in AA among players 21 years or younger, and he's just hitting extra base hits, walking, 3 true outcomes.
monster, highest ISO, isolated slugging percentage, which takes your slugging percentage and takes out all the singles. So basically all your extra base hits. Highest ISO by far of any player in AA age 21 or younger. And Clifford just turned 21 a month ago.
Yeah.
He's showing prodigious power. The bat to ball isn't as good as it was said to be when we got him in the trade and also through the draft process, but the power really hides that. And the fact that he probably is just a first base defender at the next level, he's going to have to hit for a lot of power. But he is hitting for a ton of power. He's doing things at AA that no one is doing, especially no one his age. Every single pitcher he's facing is older than him. I think there's only 4 or 5 pitchers at the whole level that are age 21 or younger. One of them's Robbie Snelling. I think Bubba Chandler when he started the year. I want to say Lesko might have been, so you're seeing a trend with these Padres guys, but I can't remember all of them right now. It's a really good package here with Clifford. He, to me, is like on his own tier of prospects between Blade and the next tier, which are really high-end prospects, because the ceiling just can't be insane because he's a first baseman that doesn't make a ton of contact.
That
So
might
which is
strike
like
out close to 200 times a year. Yeah.
totally like he's going to be a 30% strikeout rate guy who doesn't give you that much defensive value. So like
Who does that sound like?
Who's that sound like?
Lucas Duda.
Exactly, and that'd be great. That would be fucking awesome. That's like the 65th percentile outcome for Ryan Clifford right now. I'd want to say is Lucas Duda, but still, the way he's so good right now in AA, you're almost trending toward like a bona fide major league player who still has some upside. If he could just really hone in, maybe on the pitch selection, maybe be a little less patient, which we don't say often about prospects,
Yes.
but maybe just take some hacks, Ryan. And shout out Ryan Clifford's dad, big supporter. Hope he comments in this channel because Ryan Clifford is a top 5 prospect in the Mets system.
100%. At number 3, Jet Williams. This is a dude, of course, that everybody in Mets world super excited about. Prospect people are excited about. He just doesn't get to play this year because of injuries, which is so frustrating because he was 19 years old at AA, which is just you don't get to see that too often, especially for a middle infield, maybe center field guy. Crazy tools on him. Smaller dude. He's our little Jose Altuve build, but he's a good ball player and a great dude.
This was our most contentious ranking, I think, between Mark and I, because everything about Jet's profile, everything he's done so far, he looks like he could be easily number 1 overall prospect in the system. If you guys look at the list, most people will give him number 1 overall prospect thing. And last year, Jet, between A-ball and a little bit of AA, only 3 19-year-olds in all of minor league baseball had a walk rate better than 15%, a swing strike rate lower than 10%, an OPS over 850. That was Jet Williams, pretty good. Jackson Holliday, really fucking good. Roman Anthony, really good. So that's the level he put himself on last year. The only problem with Jet Williams, the only thing he hasn't done is play this year, which sucks. He just busted that wrist early. And the other guys on this list, it has nothing to do with Jet Williams.
No.
Just they've crushed the upper minors, where Jet just hasn't had the opportunity to do that yet. So excited to see Jet Williams come back. It's been a lost season, which sucks because he was on the fast track. But him dropping down to 3 from most lists 1 has more to do with other guys being good than Jet not being good.
Correct. It's not a detriment to him. It's a plus to these other guys. At number 2, the big one, Brandon Sproat, the GOAT. We got his AAA numbers. I know he had a first bad start. We talked about it earlier. But this has become one of the most exciting pitching prospects in all of baseball. And the fact that he's at AAA this year gives you he might be up at some point this year.
Totally. It's a big pat in the back for me because in the universe, I was first to Brandon Sproat being a top 100 prospect. I saw him throw 1 inning in spring training, and I was like, this guy is a bona fide, guaranteed top 100 prospect. And now we've seen lists like Baseball America put him in, I think, in the top 50. Fangraphs has him in the top 25. I think he's the Mets' number 1 overall prospect now in Fangraphs. Baseball Prospectus has him in their top 40. I saw Just Baseball Media the other day put him in there. I think he's their number 3 overall pitching prospect in baseball. My guy TJ Stats, Thomas Nesico, great follow for pitching stuff on Twitter. He has him, I think, between 2 and 4 in his top pitching prospects in all of baseball.
Sproat's 95 on Baseball America right now.
Okay, so 95. So they're still the lowest on him. I understand why, because there definitely is still some command issues. There's definitely still some sequencing issues, which we saw for him in that first AAA start. He kept throwing his sinkers against lefties, which we've known is not a great thing. That sinker just rides the path of the barrel, and he gave a couple home runs specifically on that sinker, specifically to lefties. But he throws 100 miles an hour. He has multiple secondary pitches that are plus major league caliber. His changeup might be the best in all of minor league baseball. The curveball's good. The sweeper is the big one for him. He's been developing it. It's not as consistent, but the high end of it is crazy. His shape kind of goes all over the place. Again, we had the AAA data for the 1 start on Thursday. It looked good, but he wasn't able to really do it consistently, which is going to be a big thing for him because the changeup, he eats lefties alive with that changeup. Again, maybe he's not throwing the sinker, but the fastball and sinker also have distinct shapes. He had the second best strikeout minus walk rate of all pitchers in Double A. He was top of the line in basically every single stat in Double A. He's become one of the best pitching prospects in baseball now. Mets fans, we can hang our hats on turning this guy in 1 year from being drafted to being one of the best pitching prospects in baseball. And again, of all pitchers in Double A, best strikeout minus walk rate, best swing strike rate, second best whip, third best strikeout rate, fourth best whip, and 10th best ERA. That's one of the best pitching prospects in baseball, hands down to me.
And again, if he continues to pitch as well as he has in AAA, maybe a little postseason bullpen arm for the Mets here. You never know.
I remember Spencer Strider did something similar a few years ago for the Braves on the World Series run.
That is true. All right, coming in at number 1, we haven't said his name yet. You know who it is. Drew Gilbert, outfielder, AAA. He's battled injuries this year, but he's finally back healthy, finally starting to play again. He's a dog. We love Drew Gilbert. When he also came over in the Justin Verlander trade, we're like, both of these guys, Gilbert and Clifford, oh my God, I can't believe it. And now the fact that we're not going to have to pay Justin Verlander's contract, the vesting option because he can't throw, oh my God, fleece.
Billy Epler, masterclass. And Gilbert gets on top of this list. Also, weirdly, again, sorry, this isn't as fun. Not because he has the highest ceiling of any prospect in the Mets system, because he probably has the highest floor.
Yes.
Drew Gilbert dominated the SEC. Last year, he dominated Double A. It was a really hard thing to do. Those are very high levels. He plays center field well, and he's going to stick there for a few years. He gets power. He makes a ton of contact. He has that true leader clubhouse ability. I can't wait for him and Francisco Alvarez to be in the same room.
Oh, a lot of
because we're going to be dripping and swagging these two guys together. And it just sucks that he had to pull his hamstring this year because he would have had Ben Gamble's roster spot. He'd be in the major leagues right now. He'd be part of this playoff push. He might not make it this year because of the injury. Still might. We'll see what happens starting Marte if he pulls something else on the way back. But love Drew Gilbert. He has everything you want in a Major League Baseball player. Everything you want from the 5 hitter in your lineup. Maybe a 2 hitter when he's really at his best. Does so many things well. Good play discipline, power, contact, vibes, fucking everything. I love Drew Gilbert.
Yeah, and I feel like ceiling-wise, we've always been he probably comps out to Nimmo-ish, where it's a guy who's going to get on base a bunch, be a center fielder that's pretty good at times, end up in the corner towards the end of his career, and have some pop in that bat too for Drew Gilbert, which you love to see.
And lefty hitter, which helps that ceiling, helps that floor. I've always thought if Shin-Soo Choo was a psychopath.
Okay, yeah. If Shin-Soo Choo was raised in the South, or no, he's from Minnesota. He's from Minnesota, Drew Gilbert.
Yeah, no. If Shin-Soo Choo
went to the SEC,
took the SEC on as his personality.
Yes,
yeah,
and had Tony Vitello as his coach. All right, guys, that is going to be our top 25. Some guys that you did not hear, of course. Alex Ramirez, hand up. We missed on that guy years and years ago, but he was so exciting. You can't blame us. And then we stood next to him, and he's 6'100". I mean, it's tough to not be excited about that guy. He's struggled mightily at Double A. Looks pretty horrible there. Don't really know what's going on. Don't really know what's next for Alex Ramirez. Colin Houck is another name we mentioned earlier that did not make this list. Mess around first-round pick from 2 years ago. Just really bad numbers at low A. Last year, yeah. Really bad numbers at low A, striking out nearly 40% of the time, which is concerning.
Lots of errors at shortstop.
Lots of errors, no pop. Can't put him on this list right now, even if he was a first-round pick. He's got to show us something to give us some hope there. Another name, Kevin Parada, another former first-round pick, Billy Epler masterclass, just not doing anything well at all. That's kind of it.
He could have snuck into the back of this. He's had a pretty good last month, but even as he's doing well, he's still striking out 30% of the time at
Double A.
As a polished college hitter in Double A. It's just not. Yeah, it just seems like it was a miss, and it gets a little worse because I don't know if you've seen this. There's going to be the people who stick to the end of this video. Kumar Rocker looks so back,
so good. He's
after
throwing
his Tommy John surgery. He looks insanely good.
Picked him up in dynasty leagues.
Nice. Might have been another miss. Shame on us for that one. But those 3 guys are the big misses. But at the end of the day, I'm really proud of this prospect list. Mets, I think, hands down, probably have a top 10, top 12 farm system in all baseball, which is a big upshot from where we were 2 years ago. Happy about this.
Yeah, definitely. Much better than where we once were, and excited with a lot of the guys here. And we'll keep updating you as we always do on the Mets'd podcast. So make sure you are subscribed on YouTube so you can see the video version of this. And if you want to listen to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, whatever it is, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download, and subscribe. You can follow James on Twitter at
James_Shiano.
And I'm Giraffe Nick Mark with a C. Thank you guys for listening and watching the official Top 25 Mets Prospects by the Mets'd podcast. There you go. Let us know what you're thinking in the comments. Peace out.
Peace out. See you guys next time.